So I know that many of you would like me to discuss the firing of Peter Chiarelli, but I just feel like I have covered the management situation already in so many of my videos this year. So I'd rather just focus on the on-ice situation facing the team. This team, as currently constructed and the way that they're coached, their only hope of winning games is to squeak out 2-1 victories. The way that they do this is by getting a goal or two from McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent-Hopkins, or Chiasson, and then shutting down the opposition with solid positional play and good goaltending. Now, this was working fine until Oscar Klefbom got hurt. Once he went down, the Oilers went from winning games 2-1 to losing them 4-2 or 5-2. This is not Ken Hitchcock's fault. Peter Chiarelli stripped this team of a lot of its depth, and they cannot sustain injuries to top players. This is why when I'm watching the Oilers play and they get down by 2 goals, I pick up my phone and message my buddy Dave and say, this game is over. And you know, over 90% of the time, I'm right, because they just don't have the offense to make up the ground. Outside of Connor, Leon, Nuge, and Chiasson, who is going to score? I'm just being realistic here. Where are the goals going to come from? Well, the answer is they're not going to come from anywhere. I'm not trying to be negative here. There has been way too much negativity around the team over the last 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm just looking at the facts. This is the situation they're in. Now, let's turn our attention to the outlook for the rest of the year.
Hit me with it. Just give it to me straight.
The only reason that the Oilers are still in the playoff race is because the Western Conference has stumbled so badly. If they were in the Eastern Conference, their season would be over. The Buffalo Sabres, who, keep in mind, lost the Connor McDavid sweepstakes, have 56 points in 51 games. They're on pace for 90 points. They're having a pretty decent year. And they are outside of the playoff picture. That point total, though, would place them ahead of 3 playoff teams in the Western Conference. The Oilers, who won the Connor McDavid sweepstakes, are in 25th place in a 31-team league. If the draft were today, they would have the 7th pick, which would be their 11th top 10 selection in the last 13 years. This would give them a 7.5% chance of selecting Jack Hughes in Vancouver this June. You know what? Just for the fun of it, let's run the simulator right now. The Edmonton Oilers. Putting the fun in dysfunctional ever since Daryl Cates became the owner. Realistically, the only team the Oilers have a chance of knocking out of a playoff spot is the Colorado Avalanche. The unfortunate thing is, they need to pass 5 teams to do this. They are currently listed at a 10.1% chance of making the playoffs. That means that it is only 2.6% more likely for the Oilers to make the playoffs than to win the draft lottery.
Well, that's just great.
Getting into the playoffs is going to be a gargantuan task. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I've ever used that word in my life. But there is still a chance. Here are the 3 keys to the Oilers getting into the postseason. The first one, and this is the least appealing option to me, is that they pursue some scoring depth. I asked earlier where the goals are going to come from. Well, additional scoring is going to have to come from outside the organization. The only way I would be okay with this is if they make a deal that doesn't affect the team's long-term future. For example, trading Cam Talbot, who is set to become an unrestricted free agent, for Wayne Simmons, who is also set to become an unrestricted free agent. Or trading one of their 15 defensemen for a forward. Basically, I just don't want to see the Oilers sacrifice any of their youth or draft picks to try to sneak into the postseason. Secondly, the Oilers desperately need Oscar Klefbom and Andrei Sekera to return to the lineup and play effectively. Klefbom's absence is very noticeable. As a matter of fact, I crunched some numbers, and here is the team's record with and without him in the lineup in the Connor McDavid era. Now, Andrej Sekera seems to be a forgotten man because he's barely played in 2 years. But the thing is, despite his injuries and struggles when returning from injury, the Oilers also have a much better record with him in the lineup. And with Klefbom and Sekera in the lineup, the Oilers have an even better record. Ironically enough, I believe Peter Chiarelli was ultimately fired because these two players couldn't stay healthy, and not because of all the overpaying he did in trades and signings. If these two return and play well, the Oilers are much more likely to be able to pull out tight, low-scoring victories. And third, and this is probably the most likely to occur, Connor McDavid goes supernova. We know he has the capability to put the entire team on his shoulders, overcoming awful team defense and poor goaltending. Just earlier this season, McDavid set an NHL record by being in on the first 9 goals the Oilers scored. He literally carried the team to a 2-2 record and temporarily saved Todd McLellan's job. Listening to his interviews recently and observing his body language leads me to believe he is very angry at being on the outside of the playoffs for the second year in a row. I think he has the potential to explode for upwards of 55 points in the final 32 games and help Edmonton sneak into the dance. Starting tomorrow, we are going to have a better idea of how this is going to play out. I've said this repeatedly this year. I don't have a clue how this thing is going to end. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching.